conversation going now with Republican Congressman from Kentucky and ranking member on the House Oversight Committee, James Comer. Congressman, welcome. How do you see the situation in Ukraine playing out?
Well, there's not going to be a good end to this, unfortunately. All indications appear that Russia will invade Ukraine. President Biden has been all over the board on this, and I think if you go back to the debacle in Afghanistan, that really opened the door to Vladimir Putin realizing his dream to expand Russia and make it look more like the former Soviet Union. The consequences of this is it will give China motivation to invade Taiwan, and it will give Iran motivation to go in any direction towards Israel. But what's troubling to me is the hypocrisy by the Biden administration going all out, concerned about this border crisis between Russia and Ukraine, when our own southern border is wide open.
Yeah. Those numbers coming in around 2 million for the year of 2021, according to CBP, when it comes to illegal migrants at our southern border here. Focusing in on Ukraine again, you pointed out the similarities to the Afghanistan withdrawal. We recall when the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan was ordered to evacuate. That's happening again in Ukraine right now. Again, urging encouragement, if you will, to advise these individuals, their staff and family to get out. Here's Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Take a listen.
If Russia invades, civilians, including Americans still in Ukraine, could be caught in a conflict zone between combatant forces. The U.S. government may not be in a position to aid individuals in these circumstances.
Congressman, what does that warning tell you?
Well, they certainly don't want to repeat the debacle in Afghanistan of leaving Americans behind. However, it just exemplifies the weakness of this administration. I mean, it's completely mind-boggling to see the different positions that Biden and Blinken have taken over the past 30 days with respect to Russia and Ukraine. By pulling Americans out, by signaling to the world that we're waving the white flag, that's only going to motivate Putin and his forces even more to cross that border and take over whatever part of Ukraine they want.
Really quick, final question on Ukraine-Russia. Do we need to send sanctions against Vladimir Putin? Can Congress act in this regard?
Well, I think Congress can pass more sanctions, but as you know, sanctions affect the most vulnerable populations the most and the government leaders the least. But, certainly I think Congress is on board. No one that I know of in Congress wants to see Russia expand its territory. But at the same time, there's a significant number of conservatives like myself in Congress that are just sitting back like, okay, it's great that you're showing this interest and this concern towards the Russia-Ukrainian border, but what about our southern border? You know, we have a crisis at the southern border. 2 million people have crossed our border, and I think that leads into what Putin's thinking is. You know, he's like, if the United States can't secure their own border, they're not going to stop Russia from invading Ukraine, and that's where we are, unfortunately. You know, elections have consequences, and leadership has consequences if it's bad leadership, and that's where we are on the world stage right now. We have a weak leader, and it really igniting all of our adversaries around the world to behave badly.
The vice president traveling to Honduras there for that presidential inauguration. Would you like to see her at the southern border?
I would love to see her at the southern border. She's the southern border czar, and she's made one trip to the southern border to the El Paso detention facility, which every member of Congress, including myself, has been at least one time. You know, the fact that she's going down there showing support for a country that continues to behave badly by having so much of their population make the track to cross our southern border, it's very disturbing. I think instead of being supportive and being a cheerleader for some of these countries in Central America and South America, the vice president needs to be firm and say, we're not going to tolerate this. So, again, it doesn't matter where you are in the world right now, the foreign policy by the Biden administration is just creating a lot of problems for the United States taxpayers.
All right, we got to leave it at that. Out of time with you, Congressman James Comer. Thank you so much for taking the time, though, with us this morning.
Thanks for having me on.
You got it.